Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Nashtaprayeshu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishiki. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 12, Conversation between Maharaj Raghughana and Jadabharat. From the text 9. Text 9. One may say that the varieties arise from the planet Earth itself. However, although the universe may temporarily appear to be the truth, it ultimately has no real existence. The Earth was originally created by a combination of the atomic particles, but these particles are impermanent. Actually, the atom is not the cause of the universe, although some philosophers think so. It is not a fact that the varieties found in this material world simply result from an atomic juxtaposition position or the combination. Text 10. Since this universe has no real ultimate existence, the things within it, shortness, differences, grossness, skinniness, smallness, bigness, results, cause, living symptoms, and the materials are all imagined. They are all the pots made of the same substance, earth, but they are named differently. The differences are characterized by the substance, nature, predisposition, time, and the activity. You should know that all these are simply mechanically manifested, created by the material nature. Text 11. What then is the ultimate truth? The answer is that non dual knowledge is the ultimate truth. It is devoid of the contamination of the material qualities. It gives us liberation. It is the one without a second, all pervading and the beyond imagination. The first realization of that knowledge is Brahman, the Paramatma, the Super Soul, is realized by the yogic who try to see him without grievance. This is the second stage of realization. Finally, full realization of the same supreme knowledge is realized in the Supreme Person. All learned scholars describe the Supreme Person as Vasudeva, the cause of the Brahman, Paramatma, and others. Textual, my dear King Raghugana, unless one has the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of the great devotees, one cannot realize the absolute truth. One cannot realize the absolute truth simply by observing the celibacy, brahmacharyan, strictly following the rules and regulations of the householder's life, leaving home as a vanaprastha, accepting sannyasa, or undergoing the severe penance in winter by keeping oneself submerged in the water or surrounding oneself in summer by fire and the scorching heat of the sun. There are many other processes to understand the absolute truth, but the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of the great devotee. Text 13. Who are the pure devotees mentioned here in an assembly by of pure devotees, there is no question of discussing material subjects like politics and sociology. In an assembly of pure devotees, there is a discussion only of the qualities, forms, and the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is praised and worshipped with full attention. In the association of the pure devotee, by constantly hearing such topics respectfully, even a person who wants to merge into the existing of the absolute truth uh, aba- abandons this idea and gradually becomes attached to the service of the Vasudeva. Text 14. In a previous birth, I was known as Maharaj Bharat. I attained perfection by becoming completely detached from the material activities. Through the direct experience and through the indirect experience, I received understanding from the Vedas. I was fully engaged in the service of the Lord, but due to my misfortune, I became very affectionate to a small deer, so much so that I neglected my spiritual duties. Due to my deep affection for the deer, in my next life, I had to accept the body of a deer. Text 15. My dear heroic king, due to my past sincere service to the Lord, I could remember everything of my past life even while in the body of a deer. Because I am aware of the fall down in my past life, I always keep myself separate from the association of the ordinary men. Being afraid of their bad materialistic association, I wander alone unnoticed by others. Text 16. Simply by associating with the exalted devotee, anyone can attain the perfection of knowledge, and with the sword of knowledge can cut to the pieces the illusionary association within this material world. Uh, Through the association of the devotees, one can engage in the service of the Lord by hearing and chanting Shravanam Kirtanam. Thus, one can receive his dormant Krishna consciousness and stricting to the cultivation of the Krishna consciousness, return home, back to Godhead, even in this life. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of fifth canto, 12th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Conversation between Maharaj, Raghugana and Jadabharat. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Radharani Mataji, for reading today's Bhagavatam section translations. We'll start with prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurvanmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nishesha Sunyavadi Pachakta Deshatharan. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you all for joining for today's Bhagavatam session. So we are in the section of Jadabartha's spiritual teachings to Maharaj Raghuna. So in the last chapter, we heard how Jadabartha explaining the spiritual knowledge to Maharaj Raghuna, saying that the conditioned living entity in this material world is influenced by the three modes, and due to that they perform the karma kanda activities, the fruitive activities, and due to that they go through different bodies, and then they suffer janma mrityu jara vyadhi, like that. And then he also mentioned how to overcome with that by taking shelter of the Supreme Lord and performing services to him, and then controlling the mind. And in this chapter, so far we heard, so today we are reading from slokas 9 to 16. And in the previous section, so we heard how Maharaj Raghuna was very grateful for that knowledge, but he was not able to understand because he doesn't have enough intelligence to understand those instructions. So hence he humbly requested to repeat them in a simple manner so that he can be able to understand. And before that, he begs forgiveness because he offended Jadabartha. And then Jadabartha starts giving the instructions, mentioning that all the material bodies that we see in this material world are nothing but the transformation of the earth. But the king, thinking that he is the king of the particular provision, so he's very proud, and he was thinking the others are for his sense gratification. So misbehaved with the palanquin carriers. So that's why Jadabartha says that so he is unfit to give protection either spiritually or material like that, because the king himself doesn't have the spiritual knowledge. And then he also mentions that all these um, gross bodies, what everyone has it, ultimately they will vanish because nothing is permanent. So today we'll start from 9th sloka up to 16. So in the 9th sloka, we see that this universe, so one may say that varieties arise from the planet Earth itself, and this universe is temporarily appeared to be truth. And also, the Earth was originally created by combination of atomic particles, and they are also impermanent. And here the one important thing is this atom is not the cause of the universe, because some philosophers think like that. So, and then it's not a fact that varieties found in this material simply result of the atomic combination. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that because some scientists, they think that this universe is created, or all the living entities are appeared because of some Big Bang theory like that. There is a big explosion and everything appeared like that. So they think like that. So, but and they think that this is the combination of the protons or electrons like that. But they fail to understand that where does these atoms came? So how does the atomic existence came like that? That they do not understand it. So that's why generally the scientists, their theories, it gets changed time to time. So unless it is not matched with the Vedic literature. Like for an example, so initially the scientists mentioned that the earth is flat because wherever you walk, it is flat. But later when they analyzed the earth in a deeper way, they thought it is ups and downs, because there are hilly areas and there is down areas like that. So they thought ups and downs. So the theory has been changed from flat to ups and downs. And then when the technology advanced, and then they come to understand that it is in the globe shape. So Gola. So, and that is what is mentioned in our Vedic literature. It says that Bhugole, so it is in the globe shape. So, so that's why the scientists theory time to time change, because they don't have the proper understanding. But the real knowledge, Prabhupada mentions that to understand what is the cause of this cosmic manifestation, which is the Supreme Lord. So in Bhagavatam, it is mentioned Janmadiyasya Yataha, like he is the original cause of all creation. And all the material elements also comes from him only. So when Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhumiro api analo vayu kamma mano buddhire vacha hankaritiyam me bhinna prakriti astada, like all the elements, Bhumi aparo analo vayu, like they all come from him only. So that's why Lord Brahma mentions in his Brahma Samhita, is the Sarva Karana Karana. So he's the cause of all causes. And from him everything appears. Ham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate, like that. So like that, he is the cause of cause. But some philosophers or some scientists, they think that this is a combination of the atoms like that. So in the 10th sloka, Jadavarta mentions that since this universe has no real ultimate existence, so the things within it are like different varieties, like shortness, difference, grossness, skinniness. So result, cause, living symptoms, all are imagined. They're all parts made from the same substance. And only thing is they are named differently. So, and it all depends on the substance nature, and also it is all mechanical manifestation created by the material nature. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that all these temporary manifestations, because this is Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. So these are temporary manifestations. So they were created in this material world simply this creation of the material nature. So under the various circumstances, there are various things are arrived. So that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Prakrute Kriyamanani Gunai Karmani Sarvasa. So this is all under the material nature. So the three gunas. Of course, Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that this material nature works under his direction. Maya Dekshana Prakriti Suite Sacharacharam. like that. So that's why the ultimate cause is Krishna. So Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karana. So he is the cause of all causes. So and then in the 11th sloka, so because that in the previous sloka it is mentioned that that is temporary, and then what is the ultimate truth here? So that is here is given the ultimate truth, which is divide of contamination of material qualities, and also it gives us liberation, and also the how it can be realized. It can be realized in three ways. Like the first realization of knowledge is Brahman, and then Paramatma, then the Supreme Lord, the final revelation. And the learned scholars describe the Supreme Person as a Vasudeva, and he is the cause of the Brahma Jyoti or Paramatma. And Prabhupada also quotes in the purport the other slokas from Chaitanya Charitamrita. What is this Brahma Jyoti? It's mentioned that Yad Advaitam Brahmopanishad Tad Api Asya Tanubahu. Like the Brahma Jyoti is nothing but the bodily effulgence or rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the impersonal Brahman effulgence. And then also quotes the Paramatma. And Paramatma is mentioned, Prabhupada mentioned that Ya Atma Antaryami Purusho Itiso Asyamsa Vibhavaha. Like the Atma Antaryami or the Super Soul is nothing but the expansion of the Supreme Person of Godhead. And then Prabhupada also quotes the Supreme Person. The definition of the Supreme Person is given like is complete with the 6 appearances. Shadaishwariya Purnoyaya Bhagavan Sa Swayamaya. Like the Supreme Person of Godhead is with complete all 6 appearances. And and here it is mentioned that the learned scholars describe him as the Vasudeva. So Vasudeva Saha Sarvamiti Samatmahayama, right? So whoever understand Vasudeva is the Sarvakarana Karanam. So that is the real knowledge. In the similar sloka is mentioned in Bhagavatam, right? Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shaktaiti. Like there are 3 ways to realize the absolute truth, and it is Brahma Jyoti and Paramatma realization, and then the Supreme Lord. And this knowledge is devoid of contamination of material qualities. So there is no contamination of material qualities. So the Sattva, Rajo, Tamo Guna, like that. So that's why Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna that to rise above the 3 modes, Nisthaya Gunya Bhava Arjuna, like that. And then it gives us liberation. So we can go home back to Godhead if we apply this knowledge in our day-to-day life. And it is all pervading and beyond imaginations. So that's why this one, because this knowledge is above the 3 modes, divide of contamination of material qualities. So this is something that we can only be able to get this knowledge by approaching a bona fide guru. So Jnaninas Tattva Darshana, like because they have seen the truth, so they can impart us. Upadhyakshante Jnanam. Like when we approach the bona fide guru, then they can impart this knowledge to us. Otherwise, it's very difficult to understand. So that's what here, next sloka, Jadabharata mentions that unless one has the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet, one cannot realize the absolute truth. So that's why it is very important to approach a bona fide guru, spiritual master, and then serve him nicely, humbly, and inquire and surrender to him. Then they can impart this wonderful knowledge. Otherwise, one cannot get this knowledge or realize this absolute truth simply by observing the brahmacharya or following the rules and regulations the household life, or vanaprastha or sannyasa, or undergoing penances like submerging in the water during the winter time, or surrounding by the fire in the hot summer time. So like all those processes, unless it is not mixed with the devotion, then one will not understand. And the important thing is to understand this spiritual knowledge is to take the shelter of the pure devotee. So then they can able to give understanding. So there is one nice pastime also in the great devotee, is Kanakadas. So when Kanakadas was asked by his guru Vyastirtha, so he tells to one devotee saying that this person is very knowledgeable in Chaturveda, like in all Vedas. Can he be able to go to spiritual world? He says that Supreme Lord Vishnu, he doesn't need Chaturvedis in the spiritual world. So that is not the qualification. The qualification is the surrender to Krishna, the deep devotion, love and affection to the Supreme Lord. So similarly, he also tells that whoever does great austerity, which is nice, but that is not the only qualification to go back home, back to Godhead. So Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the actual knowledge, as mentioned here, is only bestowed by a pure devotee. So otherwise, just by reading Vedas like Vedeshu Durlabham, Adurlabham Atma Bhakta, like just by simply reading or expertised in the Vedas or by performing great austerities, those things will not help us to understand the absolute truth. So that can be only understood by approaching a bona fide guru. And Prabhupada also mentions that pure devotee is like Anya Vilashata Sunya, Jnana Karma Dhyanavata. So he is no material motive desires for himself are uncontaminated by the Jnana or Karma like that. So then when we approach such a devotee or when we hear from him, then we'll be able to understand the Supreme Lord. So otherwise, it's not possible. So we see in the case of Prabhupada's disciples also, am I right? So they are hippies, but by approaching or connected to the Srila Prabhupada, who is a pure devotee, so they were able to understand. Not only they were able to understand, they were also empowered to preach this Krishna consciousness throughout the world. So that is the power of the association of the pure devotee or mercy of that. So and of course, even in this past time also, like Jadabharata, because Jadabharata bestowed his mercy to King Rahuguna, so Rahuguna was able to understand and then he was able to become successful. And in the 13th sloka, so here is given the who is the pure devotee. So the pure devotees, there's no question of discussing material subjects like politics and sociology like that. So they always discuss only the qualities, forms, and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And he's praised and worshipped with full attention. So when one in the association of the devotees, they constantly hear these such topics. Even if someone has a desire to merge into the Brahma Jyoti, so they will abandon that idea. So they will lose that interest. So that is the symptoms of being in the association of the devotees. And here also the symptoms of the pure devotees are given, like so they always discuss Krishna Katha only, not any mundane topics or Gramya Katha. So and Prabhupada mentions one of the lecture, like what is the when someone talks about this Gramya Katha. So this Gramya Katha is compared like a frog sitting in a hole and shouting loudly like beka 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 like that. When it shouts, what happens? So that shouting is heard by a snake, and then the snake understands that this frog is in this hole. So the snake will come and eat the frog and live in the that hole. So due to that shouting, unnecessary shouting, so the frog is died and then lost his house also or the hole. So similarly, if one engages in the material subject matter topics, then our valuable time is also wasted. And then in due course of time, the time in the form of death will come and take us away. The grass body is gone, and then all our belongings of the material opulence also gone. So that's why Prabhupada mentions that try as best as we can not to waste the time and engage our time in the activities of Krishna consciousness. Of course, Prabhupada gave so many wonderful Krishna conscious activities for us, like waking up early, attending Mangala Arati, chanting 16 rounds, and there is a book distribution, preaching. So many events like deity worship. So all these things. So with those kind of activities, we can help ourselves and engage in the Krishna conscious activities as much as we can. So when we do like that, slowly we get the taste of the chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, all Krishna conscious activities. Then we release the taste of that. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions, right, the pure devotees, because they relish Tushyanti cha Ramanti cha, like they, by discussing Krishna Katha, Bodhayanta Parasparam, so they derive great satisfaction and they are very blissful. So that's why we see even in our congregation, when somebody has some free time, they immediately take up their bead back and start chanting or read Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita like that, because they got that taste, or they understood that this process will help them to get rid of their anarthas, so that they can experience higher happiness. Paramdastva anivartate. So, and not only that, it will also remove our bad reactions, what we have. So, for a sadhaka, when we do this, our bad reactions will go away, sinful reactions. So, if all our bad reactions will go away, then we escape a great suffering that is coming, it's going to come. If we don't do that, then the great suffering will come forcefully. But if we do, then we escape it, and then we become, we will be situated in happy. So that's why all the Prabhupada disciples, some of them, like who are hippies, they became as happies. So ours is chant and be happy. And this is he had mentioned that it's such a way that so even a person who has the interest in merging the Brahma Jyoti, they abandon that idea. So we see that in an example of Sukadeva Goswami. Like, initially he was mentioned as attached to the Brahma Jyoti, but when he heard Bhagavatam from the wonderful devotee, then he gave up that idea and then became a pure devotee, the Supreme Person, Bhagavan realization, like that. So in the text 14, Jadabharta is mentioning that about his previous birth, like he was Maharaj Bharat. He attained perfection by completely detached from the material activities, and he has fully engaged in the service of the Lord. But due to misfortune, he became affectionate to the small deer, so which we heard in the previous chapters. And he also neglected spiritual duties. So that's why he became in the next life as the deer. Prabhupada mentions that one should follow the instructions that were given by the spiritual master as it is. So then there is no question of fall down. But if one doesn't follow, or when one sees that he's not able to practice, then approach the guru or the other devotees and get their help how to situate again into the this path of bhakti. So and progress in that. So otherwise, as we see that Bharat Maharaj got attached to the small deer and neglected his spiritual duties, and due to that, he became next life as the deer. In the text 15, we see that though he became deer, but because he has performed sincere service to the Lord, so he was able to remember the past life, and he was aware of his fall down, and now he keeps himself separate from the association of ordinary man, being afraid of their bad association, wander alone, unnoticed by others. So, and this is Prabhupada mentions that Swalpama pasya dharmasya trayato mahato bhayati. Like, even if we do little service, that's not going to go waste. So here, Bharata Maharaj, because he performed sincere service to the Lord, so he was able to remember. So Krishna gave that memory that he can able to remember, and he was aware of that, and he did not. This time he was very cautious. So you don't want to miss this opportunity. So that's why he did not associate with the people who are materialistic. So he did not forget that. So, and because of that, he wandered unnoticed by others. And in the text 16, the last sloka for today, it's here we see that simply by associating with exalted devotees, anyone can attain perfection of knowledge. And with that sword of knowledge, one can cut the illusion and avoid the association within this material world. And through the association of devotees, one can engage in the service of the Lord by hearing and chanting. That way, we can awaken our love for Krishna, and then we can go back to God. So this is the conclusion or final solution that Jadabharata is giving to King Rahuguna, how to go back to Godhead and how to avoid the miseries that one goes through into this material world. So that is saying that one should try avoiding the association of the people who are materialistic and at the same time be in the association of the devotees. So in that way, one can go back to Godhead. So many examples, right? Even Narada Muni, in his previous life, he associated with the Bhakti Vedantas. He served them, and then he took the remnants of their prasadam. And then, due to that, in the next life, he appeared as a great devotee, Narada Muni. So it's like that, when we are in the association of the devotees, they will help us to take us to spiritual world. Like in India, metro cities, these trains, so there's a heavy rush in some places. So when we are closer to the door and in the group where the people are trying to get into that train, so even without our effort, they will push us into the train. So similarly, when we are in the association of the devotees, so they will help us to go back to Godhead. They will inspire us to perform these Krishna conscious activities, chanting or hearing Krishna Katha like that. So in that way, we purify ourselves and go back to Godhead. So I'll pause it here. Thank you all for giving this opportunity. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila